Substance abuse is an issue that is near and dear to my heart. I went through my own divorce, and my husband was an alcoholic. Um, it's heartbreaking because this person you love is also somebody that you are now trying to gather evidence to show how damaging they are in order to protect your children. So, when somebody has an alcohol abuse problem, it is probably the hardest thing to prove, right? Because alcohol is legal, first of all. Um, it's very socially accepted, and it's not something that stays in your system for a really long time. I mean, there are fingernail tests that you can do to show somebody's ethanol levels, but it doesn't show how much they drank and when. So how are you going to prove that they were drinking with the children? It's also really a developing field of science. It's not completely reliable at this point. Um, what you're going to have to do if you're trying to prove alcohol abuse in particular is take pictures of the person and their behavior if you can. Um, I had a whole roll of pictures that were places I found hidden water bottles of vodka at different points in time. And that was pretty compelling. If you have children and that kind of thing is going on, you have to do everything you can to show that alcohol is really a problem. Now, if it's drug abuse we're talking about, it really kind of depends on the drug, okay? Because there's prescription drug abuse where somebody might have a prescription, but they're taking it way more than they're prescribed. That can be shown with levels in a drug test, like a fingernail test or a hair test, and you can pretty easily show somebody's taking it over what is prescribed. If it's an illegal drug, then if it's in their system at all, that should show up in a drug test, and it's not a slam dunk, but it's very, very strong evidence that the person using that drug should not have the children most of the time. I will say an exception and an interesting area that we're coming into now is the use of marijuana because it is legal in so many places. Some people argue that it's really probably less harmful for a parent to be doing than if they're drunk all the time. But it is still illegal in Alabama. So if you think your spouse is heavily using marijuana, you're probably going to want to ask for a drug test as well. Drug tests are the number one way to prove drug abuse. Alcohol abuse, the best way to prove it is if somebody gets repeated DUIs or has documented issues at work related to alcohol and their conduct, or having recordings of the person themselves. If you suspect that your spouse has a drug problem, then what we do is file a motion with the court to ask that they go take a drug test. Now, we usually ask for a fingernail test because they go the furthest back in time. But it can also sometimes be a hair follicle test or, with rare exceptions, a urinalysis. If somebody has a positive drug test, they will often try to continue to take drug tests during the divorce to show that now that they're clean. And sometimes that helps. I mean, a judge is not trying to keep a parent from their child forever. The hope is that they can show that they're clean. It usually takes a minimum of 6 months before somebody who has had a serious drug problem and tested positive is even going to start thinking about visitation that isn't supervised. And they may be ordered to take a drug test even after the divorce for a certain period of time just to continue to show that they're clean. But if you ask for your spouse to take a drug test, you better be sure that you can test clean because it is almost guaranteed that the judge is going to order both parties to submit to drug tests. And probably 80% of the time that I've had a client make that allegation about their spouse, they're using the drugs with them, and then they both test dirty. In that case, you might lose your kids to foster care. So if drugs are going to become an issue, you need to think long and hard about what the outcome is going to be for both of y'all before you ask for that. if somebody has a substance abuse problem, one of the first things they ask me is, well, won't it make me look more guilty if I go to rehab? Absolutely not. If you are making real efforts to correct what you know is a problem and better yourself, all that's going to do is help you regain time with your children. Um, Going to rehab is a huge, major step and investment, but I have seen plenty of cases where somebody has shown that they have really turned a corner and regained visitation or sometimes even custody of their children. Um, you need to carefully choose what program is going to work for you. It may be that we can figure out some type of outpatient situation for you, but there is hope for you to get well and get more time with your children no matter what. Now, the same is true if you are not the using spouse and your other half makes the effort to go to rehab and get off drugs, get off of alcohol as well. There will need to be a period of time where they have to show that they are safe to be around the children. But assuming they've had a relationship with the children and they're bonded and it's in the children's best interest, they're going to have another shot at having that relationship if they can stay clean. If you know that your spouse has a substance abuse problem, it's always your call whether you want to bring that up in court or not. Most people who have been in a relationship with somebody who has a drug or alcohol problem have been codependent or enabling that person for a very long time, and therefore they feel the need to protect them. Part of your journey is getting away from that role, because if it is bad enough that you're seeking a divorce, it's probably bad enough that you don't want that person to be responsible for your children. So if you have children and your spouse has an issue, I feel like it's non-negotiable and it's your responsibility as a parent to bring that up to the court. I have clients who tell me, well, it's only happened this one time where he drove with them, or I only came home to him passed out like once and the kids were asleep. And what I tell those clients is it only takes one time. And what happens the next time when they get in a car accident because they're drunk driving with your kids and you didn't do something when you could have? I think it's non-negotiable.